Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if we'll start to settle in. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if we'll start settling in, we'll get going a little bit. We're a little bit tardy, a little bit past 1 o'clock, but we'll go ahead and settle in. All right, I'll go ahead and call the meeting of the Higher Education Committee of the Georgia House of Representatives to order on this Wednesday, February 19th. We have a couple of presentations today and then some legislative matters that we'll get to. And I want to express my appreciation, first of all, to all of our presenters, but particularly to our first one, Dr. Joe Sutherland. And I'm gonna try to give him, well, I won't get to his entire bio because it would take perhaps the 30 minutes that we have allotted for Dr. Sutherland. But his career spans working with the Dow Jones 30 companies, the White House, many of the nation's top universities, clients such as Canva, Goldman Sachs, GlaxoSmithKline, Cisco, Coca-Cola, the Conference Board, Fulcrum Equity Partners, and more. He started J.L. Sutherland and Associates and worked with private investors building profitable companies for a number of years, including an intelligence startup, Peachtree AI, and a fintech startup, Prattle, that was later acquired. He has served in executive roles with Emory, Cisco, and Amazon, and from 2011 to 2013 served in the White House Office of Scheduling and Advance for President Barack Obama. He is a best-selling author. Wow, I mean, there's just so much here, Dr. Sutherland. His research is in exploring the utilization of machine learning and AI in a wide variety of topics has been published in top peer journals and used and featured on Fox 5, Good Day Atlanta, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Forbes, Georgia Trend, Georgia Technology, MIT, Sloan Management Review, and many others. His book, Analytics the Right Way, A Business Leader's Guide to Putting Data to Product Use, helps CEOs to build organizational capability, enhance data-driven execution. Dr. Sutherland, you're just channeling everything that I wanted to do when I was in college. So I'm envious of your career and your success. He founded the Center for, what brings him here today is he founded the Center for AI Learning at Emory University, where he also teaches and serves as the lead principal investigator for the Emory branch of the U.S. AI Safety Institute Consortium, and associate faculty for empathetic AI for Healthcare Institute at Emory. Without further ado, and if you'll please accept my apologies, Dr. Sutherland, for not getting through your entire CV here. You're welcome with all your advanced degrees, your master's degrees from Columbia, bachelor's, and a great deal of knowledge that I've been fortunate to hear before, and so I really welcome you here today. Thank you for coming. I didn't mention what we hope to talk about, but I noticed in your bio, I remember again the work you're doing in healthcare. I hope we get to see a slide or two or touch on that today. It was just awesome when I've heard it before. So welcome to the House Higher Ed Committee, Dr. Joseph Sutherland.
Thank you very much, Chairman. And we do have ongoing degree programs at Emory University if you're ever interested in going back and making good on that promise. Thank you again for letting me be here. I have a lot of thanks to give, but one is I just had a baby. Oh, come a little bit closer. Is there a microphone? Oh, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, this is a bit of a funny setup. Okay. A few thanks to give. Number one is I just had a baby, and about 8 weeks ago, and this is one of the first times I've been out of the house. So I appreciate that invitation. Number two, I was able to sneak a Chick-fil-A sandwich without my wife knowing along the way. So that's another good thank you. But number 3, thank you in particular for your focus and interest on this topic. I really think that artificial intelligence is changing everything that we do right before our eyes. I think we're at the beginning of this technological revolution. And as far as investing in our workforce and our higher ed, I think it's a really important topic. So I'm really excited to talk to you about it today. And hopefully we have enough time for Q&A as well. But I might have, do I have the full 30? Or, okay, thank you. I run this thing called the Center for AI Learning at Emory University. It represents a pretty big investment in artificial intelligence capabilities across the university. We've hired 46 tenure-track faculty, and the thing that makes us a little bit more interesting than sort of your run-of-the-mill engineering college, and that's not a slight against Georgia Tech, even though I do rib some of my friends about it, is that we are investing in applications of artificial intelligence. And so when we hire a faculty member, we hire them not as an expert just in artificial intelligence. We hire them as an expert in AI applied to one of the areas of excellence that we have at the university. So they might be an excellent scholar in healthcare and AI. They might be a great scholar in the applications of AI in the law. And so those are the focuses that we have when we hire our faculty. Chairman Martin asked me to talk about 3 different things today. One is just what is AI? I think that could be helpful. I won't treat you guys like a classroom. I'm sorry. My apologies. But if there's anybody who feels totally well equipped to talk about AI and wants me to skip past that, simply just interrupt me. The second one was how has artificial intelligence been changing education? And the third is what can you actually do about it? So those are the 3 topics we'll be covering today. Let me start with this. There's a story that was in the news just a few months ago. Who shops at Target? You guys like Target? Not anymore? We don't like it anymore? Okay, well, we're not happy about, some of us are not happy about Target. Some are happy about Target. I'm getting mixed reviews on Target. Well, this one will hit you one of 2 ways. Young lady goes shopping at Target. And you check out, you get those coupons kind of at the end, right? They start spitting all these coupons and offers out at you. And she starts getting coupons for things like baby food and things like diapers. And she's thinking, why am I getting all these weird coupons for baby stuff? So she goes home, and it gets worse because her dad finds the coupons in the bag and says, is there something that you haven't been telling me? She goes, no, I have no idea at all. And 2 weeks later, they found out that she was pregnant. And, this is one of these kind of creepy stories when it comes to artificial intelligence, because what Target was doing was using algorithms to predict what she might buy in the future, right? So a lot of people saw this story and they said, oh my gosh, like Target used AI to know things about this young lady that even she didn't know, her most, intimate, best kept secrets. And the truth is that what they were using is they were using a recommender algorithm, which basically takes things that you buy today and compares those things to things that other people bought and then forecasts what you're going to buy based on what those people later bought afterwards. And so essentially, if she was buying Ritz crackers today, the people who buy lots of Ritz crackers and Benadryl ultimately end up having morning sickness and buying things like baby diapers and baby food later on. And so that's how that algorithm works. It's all just using customer behavior information. It wasn't sort of creepy, we looked at her information that, in a way that nobody else knew to find a secret that nobody else could have ever found. That's not what these algorithms do. If you look at the screen, sort of either to your right or behind you, you can see a painting by an artist who popularly would be known as Rembrandt. This piece of artwork was sold at auction for a little bit under $1 million. And about 30 seconds after it was sold, somebody leapt up and said, actually, this was painted by me with my artificial intelligence tool. And it's kind of crazy to look at this because we had the Royal, we had 20 worldwide Rembrandt experts look at this painting and say, yeah, for sure, this is a Rembrandt. I don't know where you found it. I've never seen it. In all my studies, I've looked at thousands of Rembrandts. I've never seen those before. where did you find it? And ultimately, they couldn't prove any sort of provenance because it was produced using a computer. This, for me, was an artificial intelligence aha moment, because I thought, wow, like if a computer can make something like this and it could sell for $1 million and, using $4 of electricity, I mean, that's truly incredible. That's truly incredible. And I think that there's a lot of value for people to be able to derive based on these technologies. Now, there's questions that arise. For example, Rembrandt's works are in the public domain, but what about when you start using works that are not in the public domain to synthesize new interesting paintings, et cetera? Those types of questions have yet to be, I think, fully settled. And of course, you all know this, right? There was an election year last year. I'm sure you all remember the hubbub about deep fakes. You guys remember what deep fakes are? Yeah, I mean, it's basically people using technology to paint you into places that you have never been, saying things that you've never said. A lot of people were worried about deep fake technology being used for not necessarily campaign misinformation, which, we've enshrined First Amendment rights. You can say what you want to say when you're running for office. But using misinformation for electoral disinformation is not legal. And we saw an instance of this happen during the New Hampshire primary. This was when Joe Biden was still the nominee for the Democrats. A bunch of people, did you guys hear about this? You're in politics, you probably heard about this. A bunch of people got a robocall direct from Joe Biden and said, hey, Joe Biden on the phone here. Don't believe what they're saying. That's a bunch of malarkey. And by the way, we got this election locked down. Don't even bother showing up. It's not worth your time. And sounded exactly like him. Turned out, I think that hit 25,000 households. We'll never know if it appreciably affected the electoral outcome because, he was the only nominee on the ticket at the time. But it turns out that there are people who have found ways to use these technologies as part of our electoral process today. And so there's a lot of different areas where artificial intelligence, I think, has, I think it's kind of frightened people. But I'll kind of propose to you a different story. When I was a kid, we lived in a 1,000 square foot apartment, 6 people in my family, and the kids would rotate who slept on the floor every single night. It was kind of like a fun game. It was like draw straws or like, beat each other in like a game of like Rummy Cube. Who wins? You get to sleep in the bed. And, my saving grace was my aunt would come and she would pick me up and she'd take me to the local library. And at that library, I would spend, long afternoons just reading books. And I checked out 2 books one day that changed my life. One was Ripley's Believe It or Not. You guys remember that? A lot of Gen Zs don't even know Ripley's Believe It or Not. Then the other one was How to Program a Computer in a Language Called BASIC. If you guys remember BASIC. And so I used those afternoons. Fortran. I didn't learn Fortran or COBOL. That's a relevant topic these days. I saddled up to the computer at the library and I basically programmed a trivia game. And I would ask people trivia questions based on Ripley's Believe It or Not, and then it would score you as, was the tallest man in the world 9 feet tall, true or false, and you'd get points if you got true and you got it right, and you would lose points if you got it wrong. And to my knowledge, that computer program and that leaderboard is still on that public computer, like in that library. I would like to go, actually, I need to go check that out. That could be kind of fun. But, that one opportunity set me up for a lifetime of, of social mobility, right? I mean, I never would have gone to the White House. I never would have gone to be an executive at these big tech companies or started my own businesses if I hadn't had that one opportunity. And I think the artificial intelligence is going to be a lot like that. I think it's going to be like having access to the world's largest and most impactful library. But the difference is you're not going to have your aunt go and pick you up. I think you can access it from anywhere if you have broadband. Right, that's probably another important thing is if you don't have broadband, there's a chance you might get cut out of this technological revolution. That's an important time. I think there's still 200,000 people here in the state who don't have access to broadband. So that kind of gives you some use cases. I'm going to actually pull back the hood a little bit, and I'm going to show you guys how ChatGPT works. Do you guys know how ChatGPT works? You guys have heard of ChatGPT. Everyone's heard about it at this point, which is interesting. Like over the last 2 years, I used to do audiences, nobody would raise their hand. Now probably everybody hears about ChatGPT. And so ChatGPT is what really started this most recent revolution that everybody sees is so economically impactful. And it's based on what's called a large language model. A large language model is not intelligent in any sort of way. It is not reasoning. It is not thinking about the inputs that you give to be able to talk back to you using outputs. All it's really doing is exactly what I'm about to show you. We call these things, when we started creating them back like in the 2010s, the dumbest language models in the world, because this is how it works. You start with one word, for example, the word the, and the whole point of the model is to try to predict what word should come next, given the first word that we gave it. Okay, so it'll look at some options. It'll say, well, I don't really know much about what the is trying to say, but we'll pick a word. We'll pick test, right? And the interesting innovation that we made was, instead of just predicting the next word that's going to come based on the word that came before it, we're now going to start thinking about making a prediction about what the next word to come is based on the two words that came before it. And so now, given the and test, what would be the next most likely word, given all the English language that we've read, that should come next? And then given the test was, those three words, what's the next most likely word that should come, given all the types of texts we've read? And then finally, what's the next word that should come after the test was to? That's literally how these technologies work. It's kind of like a massive version of autocomplete. You guys have iPhones? Have you had iPhones? You ever use the autocomplete thing on your text messages? That's basically, it's a small language model, and so you've had a version of ChatGPT, a baby version of it, on your phone for a very long time. But what's amazing is that we were able to develop these models with so many different interactive terms that you can actually put in like 1,500 words to predict what the next word is going to be. And that, for some reason, was the secret recipe that made computers be able to talk like people. Pretty incredible. The funny thing to me is, like, when we first saw the results of these models, like, we were amazed that they worked that well. Like, given this is the simple logic of how it works, and it kind of raises this question of, like, well, what is so special about human thought? Are we just thinking of what the next word should be? I think the answer is actually human thought is incredibly special, because if we had just thrown a bunch of gobbledygook into this machine, we would have never been able to make a model that was able to talk like humans. So actually the documents we've produced as humans, training these models, are actually indicative of, I think, our own special humanity. So that's how they work. But especially in schools these days, people are worried about kids losing critical thinking skills. They're worried about kids not being able to interact with the world without the help of these models. In other words, becoming dependent on them. There's a lot of questions that I've heard, a lot of concerns that I've heard. I actually think that these technologies are going to end up being a lot like the calculator was. Math teachers used to think that calculator was going to be the end of all mathematical thinking in our children. And it turned out it's just another tool that they use in math class to get to the answer a little bit faster. I think that that's exactly what these models are going to be doing. One thing I do want to say at this point is there's a lot of interest these days in primary education, secondary, post-secondary, higher ed, et cetera, vocational education, that the kids are going to be using these chatbots like ChatGPT to do their work for them, and that we're never going to know, okay? And so in response to that fear, a lot of people have started investing in software that will basically, it claims to be able to detect when you're using ChatGPT. And then, essentially, these kids get penalized when the software comes up. Have you guys heard Turnitin? Turnitin is one of these software products. Yeah, it's like, and the kids will get lit up because they will submit a totally original essay, and then it'll flag it as having been ChatGPT. And, then they'll get in trouble because there's no way for them to defend that they came up with that, that information themselves. And so I think you need to be beware of technologies who claim that they can do this, because statistically I can demonstrate how it's impossible to actually detect without a very particular type of thing. It's called a watermark. And kids are not watermarking their essays. So one of the things I think Chairman Martin wanted me to talk to you about today was some of the workforce development activities we've been pursuing around the state. I went down to Newton County, Emory University has a campus. It's called Oxford College. Have you guys ever been? Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. I keep trying to convince my wife we should just move down there and be professors down there because that would be like an idyllic life. They have like a farm to table. It seems really relaxing. I went down to Newton County, nearby where the new Rivian plant's being built, by the way, and I met with probably a room about this size, full of like local business leaders, and I asked, how many of you guys feel comfortable using artificial intelligence in your businesses today? And literally not one hand went up in the room. And I started realizing at that very moment that, within the university bubble, right, like we're all talking about AI all the time, but, folks don't actually feel comfortable using it. It's never going to make a difference to the broader economy. And so I went around raising money and raising partners, and we ultimately got a nice big grant from Rowan Foundation, which I think you guys are probably all familiar with. If you're not, I'm happy to talk about it in greater detail, and the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, to go around and just share tools. What is artificial intelligence? How do you use it? And then actually do hands-on demos with people. We spoke to in excess of 2,500 people over the summer around the state in 22 different communities. We hit like, I think that lower right one is like Athens. I think the lower left that's like Cartersville. I think that one in the upper right is, I think it was Valdosta. Went to Albany. We Savannah, Augusta. We went around the state, and it was just amazing the audiences that this event was able to pull in. Because I really think that most people are just like either curious or worried, and they want to know like how is this going to affect them. Some of the questions I got on the road. How will this affect my life? How's it going to affect my kids' lives? Is AI going to replace our jobs? Is my privacy at risk? Is it sentient? That was a common one. How is AI going to change our educational system? What are we doing to regulate artificial intelligence? And how can I access educational resources? That's actually a really big one because people are really worried they're going to get left behind. Actually, one story is I had a kid come up to me, and this is relevant for you guys. And he, I think his mom was like kind of prodding him up to the podium. And, he comes up, he goes, how can I get a career in AI? And my response to him was, you don't, it's the wrong question. You don't get a career in AI. You get a career in whatever you would normally get a career in, and then you use artificial intelligence to be way more productive at it. And, in a lot of ways, having access to resources is not creating a new industrial sector, right? What it's doing is helping our people be more productive, earn higher wages, and ultimately, I think, live more fulfilling and potentially freed up lives because of these technologies. And so I like to dispel that fear. I don't think that we'll ever succeed by building AI educational programs per se. I think we'll succeed by building AI programs that integrate the technology with vocational interests or with other domain areas that we already have today and where we're already competitive as a state. Another statistic I wanted to share with you guys is twofold. 70% of college graduates who were surveyed by a recent survey nationally wish that artificial intelligence had been integrated into their courses. And so that's a preponderance of students who feel kind of left out. But when I went to the SACS COC meeting, which is the SACS, it's like one of the accrediting organizations, and this is a straw poll, so this wasn't a scientific poll, but I had about 300 provosts and presidents in the room from all those higher educational institutions. And I asked, how many of you guys have an artificial intelligence strategy? And I'd say no more than 1 in every 10 hands went up. And that's a gap. I see that as a gap. And I'll say this to you guys just as much as I say it to any other leader of an educational institution. You have to have a clear strategy, because there's not only, demand for this. I think it's also imperative for us if we want to remain competitive as a state. I also think that investment in artificial intelligence is going to make a big difference for the capabilities we have, for the public. One of the things we've been working on at Emory University, which I think is really exciting, is this technology that basically looks at your scan and then can diagnose you with a disease automatically. I actually earlier. I don't remember. Had I broken my foot when I saw you in Alpharetta? I don't think so.
Dr. Southern, that was prior to last Friday, in which I'm not allowed to recall that far back.
Therefore, okay, makes sense. Yes, at some point along the tour, I broke my foot and still was walking around these stages, much to the chagrin of my wife and all my relatives. And I remember how wonderfully easy it was for me to get into the doctor and get a scan, get the diagnosis and treatment that I needed. But there's a lot of people who don't have that opportunity. And when I looked into the statistics behind this, nationwide, we have a shortage of radiologists, tens of thousands of radiologists. Those are the people who read your scans to make sure you get the treatment you need. How many scans per year do you think are either not read or not read on time because there aren't enough radiologists to read them so that you can get the care you need? 25%. I'll give you a number. It's 120 million scans nationwide per year. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. And I realized with technologies based on artificial intelligence, we could fix that problem. And there's people here in Georgia who don't need to commute into Atlanta and get somebody to take care of their kids for a few days while they get a hotel and spend money just to be able to get their scan looked at on time. I mean, if we could use our artificial intelligence technologies at a university like Emory and syndicate them throughout the state, you could have computers look at people's scans and make sure they get the treatment they need on time. I think there's a real opportunity here to use these types of technologies, and these are the types of things that artificial intelligence is opening up. Another one is, who's heard that AI is going to take manufacturing jobs? Probably everyone. It's in the news a lot. And when I went and I talked to the Georgia Association of Manufacturers, I go, give me the data. Where's this coming from? And they go, we have no idea who's been saying this. We have the exact opposite problem. We have too many jobs open and we don't have enough people to fill them. It's like millions of jobs are open nationwide and they can't fill them. And they have a 50% retention rate, so there's a lot of turnover. And I keep thinking artificial intelligence isn't going to steal manufacturing jobs. It's going to create a new opportunity that makes them really cool and attractive to young kids again. I mean, if you tell a kid, when you graduate high school, I'm going to bring you in, you're going to be using technology to do this stuff in this factory. You're going to be the manager of all these AI, robots. So day one, you're getting a promotion to manager. You're going to be making $100,000 to start, while your friends are still trying to figure out what they're doing with their lives. And by the way, you're going to be working in the coolest, most attractive field that we have right now. That's an opportunity, I think, to reframe the problem that manufacturers had. It's got a branding problem. And so artificial intelligence could be used to help do that, especially through vocational training programs and partnerships. Here's some hard data. Just talking about when we use large language models like ChatGPT in the classroom, does it make a difference? What you'll see on the screen or on the handouts that you guys have in front of you is a chart, and there's 3 bars on it. It's a little bit small, so I'll kind of explain it to you. The first bar is students who were scored on an exam without using any sort of active tutoring or any sort of additional AI support. The second bar is students who were scored on an exam after getting active tutoring with lectures. And the third is the bar when they used basically ChatGPT or a chatbot that was trained on the material in the course and then took the exam. And the result was, because we randomly assigned these students to receive one of these treatments, was a 63% increase in the final score. Just because they used this large language model instead of the more passive educational model that we've been looking at for a very long time. That's pretty incredible. And if you ask, if you dig into the data, why were they getting higher scores? It's because they were more engaged with the content, because it was more interactive, and it made it more fun for them. And to me, I think that's an incredible, realization, which is we need to rethink this sort of, lecturer to 300 people educational model, right? We need to be thinking about how we can bring in these personalized educators or, additional types of technologies to help personalize the education that students get. And I think it actually will improve educational outcomes significantly. I think it also has implications for how we evaluate and keep people accountable. How am I doing on time? Okay. This is a quick one I'll gloss by, but another study where we randomly assigned some people in a call center to get access to an artificial intelligence machine that essentially would be kind of like a ride-along with them while they're on the phone with people. And the people who got access to the large language model started to perform like the best and most tenured employees at the call center within just a handful of months. And so you take a recent college graduate or high school graduate, you give them the power of these large language models that are trained on what the best employees have been doing, and they start performing like the best employees in like a matter of months as opposed to 10 or 20 years. I think that that's an incredible opportunity for our vocational workforce as well. I usually like to talk about this example. This is one that on the statewide tour somebody introduced to me. Where essentially she thought that somebody had broken up with her using ChatGPT. And at first I was like, I don't know, I don't believe you. But as I read it, I started thinking, okay, maybe it could be the case. So like any good PhD trained researcher, I went on TikTok and I started researching what are the kids doing with ChatGPT? Are they breaking up with each other? And there's a whole trend, how to break up with each other using ChatGPT. And I think at first, when you think about this in an educational context, like, we're sort of thinking that these kids are just totally, their culture is changing. How do we educate them in a world when, they're just not even talking to each other? They're using computers to talk to each other. But as I thought about this a little bit more, I think what this, young man had done, and he was English as a second language, he felt uncomfortable having a conversation that was so important and high stakes using just his baseline language skill. And so using ChatGPT, he was able to be a little bit more respectful and comprehensive in the way he communicated. And when we look at our English as second language students at Emory, they're using these technologies in the same exact way. They'll basically go and they'll prepare, for like the TA visit with ChatGPT to get ready. And then they actually go in and talk to the TAs next because they finally feel empowered to be able to do so. So my call to action for you, I have a few suggestions, and I think we'll have 3 minutes for questions, I really think more people need to have access to these technologies all at once. My worry is that there's going to be two kind of groups of people who get early access and people who get late access. And I think that the folks who get late access will get left behind. And I really think it's because they'll be competing with folks who have access to these great technologies. And my hope is that we can use the resources that we have here at the Capitol to be able to prevent that from happening. There are a few very specific suggestions I'll make. You guys have them all in your handouts. They mainly have to do with clarity of strategy, providing literacy programs. I think workforce development is a total must. I think we have to look at vocational applications. And I think there's really cost-effective ways to do that using partnerships like kind of what we've built with Rowan Foundation. I actually really think rural access is a big important one because there's one big group of people who might get left out of this, and I think they're in Tifton, et cetera. And the more we can bring experiential learning into it and real connections that connect faculty and universities back to the real vocational problems that we have in healthcare and human services, et cetera, I think the more impactful this revolution will be. All right, well, that's my time. Thank you so much, and I guess I have a minute for questions, maybe. You tell me.
Well, we'll do that. Those thank you, Dr. Sutherland. Thank you for doing that. And you wound up, exactly, what I wanted this group to see is I do feel like there's an opportunity that this could be used not only in educating people, but maybe even educating our educators. I mean, if you used in the call center example, if we have teachers that are getting great results in various areas, they're doing things, they're saying things, they're communicating with students. If we can capture that and make that available to other teachers, I think it can't hurt. Certainly, we're not going to gate the way teachers interact with their students, but I think it would help. Questions for the doctor? We just have just a second, and we might even be lucky enough if he needs to get out of the house, given the young one at home, that we might get him back again before us later in the year. But I can't promise that. Any questions for Dr. Sutherland?
Happy to come back to it.
We have one over here. Number one, is that Representative Glaze? Is that you?
Wow. It's a lot.
It's a
I was
lot.
just wondering
I had to pack a lot.
yeah, if you had any suggestions on first steps on how we can make sure that we integrate for, say, all freshmen, like we have freshman English and is there any way to help integrate this into higher ed in first year, freshman year?
I think the first step is having a clear and well-articulated strategy for where we're going. What I'm seeing right now is a lot of the faculty do not feel prepared or well-guided with where the investments are going to come down the road, so they don't know what curricula to develop or what to invest in. They don't know what tools to use. They have to whip out their own personal credit cards, just to be able to go and experiment with the tools before they go and give them to the students. And I think that there's too many barriers in the way to basically improve the curricular outcomes as you've articulated. So that's the first step, I think, is just clear vision, like where are we going? The second will be, I think, just providing the literacy resources, which is instead of you having to whip out your credit card, like you have access to it within your single sign-in from the USG system.
Okay, I'll be quick. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. I have a 14-year-old son, and he had a homework assignment, and I asked him to go do it, and he came back in like 3 minutes, and it was done. And the language is way too old, and I knew he used ChatGPT. So I'm asking you, I saw those scores rise on the bar and on the bar graph. Are the kids learning anything? Because it literally just wrote his whole homework assignment for him, and I don't know if he retained any of the information.
It's a great question. So we need new pedagogies to be able to better and more accountably evaluate our students. I think some of the ways that we've been evaluating them have almost been lazy, which is like, okay, write me a 5-paragraph essay on, the Renaissance, and they come back and they're like, here's what I read online, I just copied and pasted it. I didn't retain that either when I was in high school. What I'd rather have them do is say, hey, ChatGPT, write me 10 different essays on the Renaissance. And now what I want you to do is read all 10 of those essays and then compare and contrast where they're good or bad and how you would actually craft them together to make a better argument. And we're going to do that with a pen and a paper, in real time, as opposed to just having access to a computer. So the technologies are here, right? There's nothing that we can do about that. I think that the key is adapting and using these new pedagogies to be able to improve the student outcomes.
Okay, we have time for one more. Representative Jackson, is that you, 24?
And I did have to leave. Y'all seen a phone or a telephone around here? I can't find my phone. But my thing is, this is good, okay? But what about the socialization and the thing that our young people today are going to use the shortcuts? So how are they retaining that information? How do you connect old and new together in order to get our kids to learn and to objectively come to the same answers? And it may take a little longer than this is very swift.
The short answer is I think we need to invest more in experiential learning. So in the real world, you have outcomes that you see and are tangible, and you can, you know it because you can touch it. It's real, right? I think when we evaluate students based on information that's just on a computer, there was never any output that actually crosses the boundary into the real world on which to actually evaluate their success. And by introducing more opportunities for them to actually take what they're learning and apply it to problems that we actually see on a day-to-day basis, like in life, I think it'll help them to better retain and also better learn how to use the tools available to go and see the change that they want to see. That would be the short answer. The sort of second layer to it is, in education, right, we have two always competing goals. One is, how do you make people think critically on their own to solve problems you haven't seen before? And the other one is, how do you make them think more efficiently to solve problems that we have seen before? Because you're more productive and you can earn more if you can do that more rapidly. And the balance, I believe, is still going to be the same. It's just introducing this new tool that's making it, I think, a little bit harder to know which one we're getting. And I think the solution to that is going to be more experiential learning.
Thank you, Dr. Sutherland, and thank you, members, for the questions. Really appreciate you coming out. I know we're busy. Congratulations. You didn't say, and I don't know if you care to, but my mom and daughter, son, everybody's healthy, I hope.
Everyone's great. Thank you for asking.
Great. Thank you, and thank you very much for coming.
Yep. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, members of the committee. We're going to move forward. We're going to go straight to President Riley, but we're going to, if she has graciously agreed to hang with us. We have two pieces of business that I'd like to handle first, and then we have two items for our members that we'll do after President Riley's presentation. If I can call out of order House Bill 172, and we have the author here, and we'll go to him if we need, but let me explain the posture that we're in as a committee. If the committee will recall, we had a substitute to the original bill the other day that I suggested, the author agreed to, and others interested in the bill thought we were okay with, where we took the $90,000 and spread it over a 4-year period at $22,500 each. When we passed that out, when we got up to rules, we found that no good deed goes unpunished, and we actually did need to leave that at $90,000 over the 3 years. So the posture we have is we have the sub recommitted to us. House Bill 172 by substitute is recommitted to us by rules. What I would like to do is ask the committee if I could withdraw that sub without objection. If there's no objection, let me explain what that would take the sub off the desk and put us in a position where we then have to adopt another document. The intent of the chair at that point would be for us to adopt for moving on the original bill, which we've all seen before. So what I would like to do as chair is suggest that or ask, is there objection to withdrawing the substitute that was previously passed out of this committee? Withdrawing that. I see no objection. That is withdrawn. What I would then ask is there a motion to adopt for action? This is not our action, but adopt for action House Bill 172 LC 461037. That is the original bill that's in your package that we originally had. Is there a motion to adopt that version of the bill? I have a motion and a second that this is. Yeah, I'm going to get to you. This is just to adopt this for potential action. Did you have a question?
No, we're saying.
Okay, yeah. So this is just the adoption. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Now we have before us the original bill. The gentleman is in the stands and has been waiting on us. Do we need to hear a presentation of the original bill, or again? I wanted to go not with another substitute. This is the original language. So if we are in a position to move this forward now, or we can have the gentleman preside or present. I see nobody that's anxious to hear from you, Representative. I think you got a good proposition. What's the pleasure of the committee on House Bill 172 LC 461037, the original measure from Representative Huddleston? I have a motion and a second to just move on to rules with a due pass recommendation. Is there a discussion? Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. It moves on to rules. Thank you, Representative, and thank you to the committee for working with me on that. And again, my apologies. We thought we had a good plan to keep folks with us for 4 years instead of 3, and we still hope they stay with us for 4 years instead of 3. We're going to do that. We were going to go. Chairman Hawkins had a reason to need to go, but he had to go to do that. So the other items we have are members of the committee. So I'm going to go. You guys are going to be with us unless you have a place you have to be. Do you not? Okay. So. Representative Fleming has a place has to be, so I'm going to ask him to, you can, from your chair or from your seat, we'll do 150, HB 150. This is a substitute offered by Representative Fleming, LC 610120S, should be in your packet. Representative, tell us about the substitute. I think there's a change that you had alluded to that you would be making going forward. Yes, sir.
Chairman, and this is the bill I presented last week. There was no changes. This was a sub we came into committee with last week. Yes, sir. So,
We have the same bill that we had last
yes,
week.
yes, sir. Yeah.
Is there any additional questions on this? Will Park, you're gonna have a friendly option for him in a second?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Let's see if we can get a motion on the measure. If we're ready to go forward, then I'll recognize you for that. Is there any questions? Anyone here to speak on the item? This is the same bill we had in previous, LC 610120S. If not, what's the pleasure of the committee on this item? I have a move and a second that this do pass to rules. Whip Park, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the author of the bill, thank you for being open to friendly amendments. I was wondering if you would be open to having a minimum threshold of $50,000 in the bill.
Yes, sir. That's fine with me.
Do y'all want to tell us where you'd
would you
like us to?
So I defer to legislative counsel, at least in reading the bill, perhaps on line 27, with respect to the definition of funding. The definition of funding could mean all those things at a minimum value of $50,000 or more, such that would capture.
Say that again.
So the friendly amendment is to include a $50,000 minimum threshold. At the federal level, there's, I think, a $250,000 threshold. I think different think tanks have it at either 50 or 100,000. I think I'd be open to a $50,000 threshold, just so that the reporting requirement doesn't become burdensome, such that whether it's like $1 or $2, that doesn't need to otherwise be reported.
So if I'm looking at this, and Ms. Forster, there you are. If you have a microphone, you can suggest if we were to, on line 27, line 26, reach funding capital, on 27, investments, salary, wage, compensation fee, or other monetary exchange in a value of greater than $50,000. Would that work in an amount greater than 50,000, period? Is that agreeable to you?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Is everyone clear on the gentleman's amendment? And okay, and you move that amendment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second to the? I have a motion and a second on the amendment. To Ms. Forster, do you want to read back to us what you have, just line 27 maybe?
Funding means any gift, grant, donation, payment, and commercial services, capital investment, salary, wage, compensation fee, or other monetary exchange, and not greater than 50,000.
Okay, I don't think we got your microphone pulled up there, but basically in an amount greater than 50,000 goes after exchange and before the period on line 27. That is an amendment, a motion and a second. Is there any objection? Any objection to the amendment? The amendment is adopted. We have before us then LC 610120 for a due pass recommendation with the amendment. Is there any discussion, any further discussion on the measure? Thank you, Whip Park, for that, and thank you, Representative Fleming. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no? No. Representative Clark. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you. President Riley. While President Riley comes up, we have, I have asked President Riley to come in today to give us a quick overview of, with President Riley involved, it'll be a quick but thorough overview of our dual enrollment program. We heard a bill last week that involves sort of dual achievement, but that also is sort of dual enrollment is where those courses are. And then we have another, at least another one bill in the committee that addresses dual enrollment and participation therein. So just to provide a basis for those discussions going forward, I'm going to ask President Riley to talk to us about how dual enrollment kicks off how the selection process works, what the logistics of it are. President Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be back with you today, and I will try to be very concise in this presentation. Similar to the college completion grant, the Georgia Student Finance Commission prepares an annual report on the dual enrollment program. I believe copies have been provided to you. It is available to the audience on our gsfc.org website, similar to the completion grant and other reports that we publish annually. I'm going to give you some very quick highlights from our report that covered the years 2016 to 2024. As you can see, that we've had dramatic growth in the program. Figure 1 on page 4 of the report indicates that expenditures have grown by 84% since FY16. You can see that we had a bump in FY 2019 that was right before the General Assembly considered modifications to the program that limited the utilization of dual enrollment dollars. Expenditures went down following that adjustment, and they are on the rise again. We're looking at exceeding the $100 million mark in this current fiscal year. The program remains very popular. You can see that a 20% increase in the number of students from 23 to 24 has also occurred, indicating regrowth following the pandemic and also in popularity, even with reductions in the type of courses and maximum credit hours that were implemented in 2020. Enrollment breakdown, you can see that 57% enroll in courses at TCSG institutions, 37% at USG, and 16% at private institutions. 80% of all courses taken are core courses, and core courses are broken down into English, math, science, social science, and foreign language content. 92% in FY 2024 of the courses that were taken received a passing grade. 70% of dual enrollment students enroll in a HOPE-eligible post-secondary institution within 1 year of high school. I point this out because we've talked quite a bit about the Georgia Match program, where we see that 50% of our high school graduates tend to enroll in a public or private institution in the state of Georgia, and as we're hoping to grow that pot, we were pleased to see that 70% of those students that take advantage of the investment the state is making in them with dual enrollment dollars, they're staying here in the state of Georgia and enrolling in our institutions. 60% or more complete their high school with a HOPE GPA after their completion of their first year. 86% persist into their second year, and at a 30-hour checkpoint, our HOPE recipients, 70% of them keep the HOPE, and 90% of Zell Miller recipients keep Zell Miller. There is a significant amount of more information in the report. I just hit your highlights today to the interest of time. I'm going to pivot now to talk about something that we don't talk about generally, and that's how a student becomes enrolled in a dual enrollment course. There's quite an extensive application process for students, quite a bit of eligibility criteria. They must be enrolled and attending a participating eligible public or private high school in Georgia. So the school must be participating and the student must be enrolled in it. The student must have the approval of that high school through the counselor's offices to participate in dual enrollment. And prior to participation, the student must complete an application with Student Finance indicating the institution they would like to attend and the courses they would like to pursue. And they must complete an extensive participation agreement agreeing to the rules and parameters of the program. Also, their parents must agree. There is a parent participation agreement component to eligibility as well. Independently, the student must apply to the institution that they wish to receive instruction from and be accepted by that institution to be able to participate. They must maintain satisfactory progress while they are in the dual enrollment program, and they must complete all of their coursework in dual enrollment classes before they graduate from high school. Again, these are the eligibility criteria for the student to participate in the program and receive dollars that pay for the cost of the program. Students may independently pursue dual enrollment and pay for it out of pocket. We also have selective service registration requirements for our adult males that would like to pursue it as well. An application process requires an extensive agreement to the rules and regulations of the program. I've included a sample on this slide. The process is entirely online, so the student must go through all of the application process, and their parent must go through an application process unless they specifically ask for a paper application to complete. Once the dual enrollment funding application has been submitted to Student Finance, the high school is able to interact and determine whether they agree that the student should be taking the courses that they're seeking to take, and they can add, approve, or reject the courses that the student selects. The high school can then edit and resend an agreement to the parents for the parents to reconsider if changes have been made to the approval courses and institutions that the high school determines are appropriate. And then the high school can also view that the eligible colleges on the student's dual enrollment application. Students, as they're going through this process, can receive from our Georgia Futures website an update through their student dashboard on where their application status is through the process. And as you can see on this slide, there are a significant number of steps where the student may have to do some additional interaction until all of these things are addressed. The student has not been cleared by their family, by the high school, and by the college to proceed. And finally, we just wanted to indicate that our Georgia Futures website captures all this activity. We have dashboards at gafutures.org that work for the high schools, the student, and the institutions. Each of these partners and stakeholders in the dual enrollment program have access to log into their own area of the Georgia Futures website and be able to see and take action on any of their individual responsibilities. So Student Finance has the capability to have all this information compiled in one place, and that helps us with the reports that we prepare for you each year to indicate and compile all the activity and present it to you. And that, Mr. Chairman, as I promised, is a brief overview of how a student can participate in the program. And I'm happy to answer any questions or meet with members of the committee at any time if you have additional questions on any of the information in our annual report. I did fail to mention that in the annual report is a new section that was required by Senate Bill 86 that was passed a couple of years ago that involved CTAE and other courses that are taking in high school. And there's quite a bit of information on the outcomes of the first year of reporting in that vein. And again, I'll be happy to answer questions at a future meeting or speak with members individually. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, President Riley. You have a couple. Representative Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, President Riley. On a personal note, I have an 8th grader who has already come home talking about excitedly being in a dual enrollment program when he gets to high school. So you're penetrating all the way down to middle school at this point. In a different vein, I'm just curious, it's got to be a small population, but if we have students who are not considered residents of Georgia but attend a Georgia high school, are they also eligible for the dual enrollment program?
Thank you for that question. We do have examples of students that reside outside of the state of Georgia, or we have information on their addresses being outside of the state of Georgia. If they meet all of the eligibility requirements that I ran through, actually attend a school in the state of Georgia and have all the other criteria, yes, they are able to participate.
Thank you.
Number 28 is Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, President Riley, and we brag on you a lot, but I had a constituent issue on Friday, and you helped me, and we got it fixed, and I really appreciate you and Haley helping me with that. Just so I make sure I understand, on dual enrollment, the high school would receive FTE through QBE, and then the post-secondary institution would receive dual enrollment funds for that student that was taking the course on that post-secondary campus. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. I hadn't been in this conversation in a while. I just wanted to make sure.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and yet a third one, the post-secondary institution also will get a formula funding for those hours as well.
Public institutions. Mr. Chairman.
Public, obviously, yeah, public institutions.
So that's why when we have articulated credit, it's, I guess, the savings to the taxpayer because we're not having to pay twice.
We actually are. We're paying 3 times.
Okay.
That's, I mean, and I've brought this up before, and that's why I think it's important. And then I guess we're in the question dialogue here. I'm answering your question. It is actually costing the state 3 times when a student goes. You pay for the FTE at school, at their host K through 12 school. You pay for the hours they're taking at the post-secondary, whether it be TCSG or a university system component, and then you pay a tuition that goes with them. So the education is very expensive. As the president pointed out, worthwhile. I mean,
oh, yeah.
there's good going on, but it is an expensive proposition, which brings me up. If I can ask, and let me just say, or you completed with your question? I will ask President Riley. So I think many Georgians would be surprised that we're paying that 3-time tuition for people that aren't state residents. That's a bit news to me. How does that come? We have people that don't live in the state, and I understand there's lawful status, and that we have a bill that speaks to that, and we'll get to that later. But I'm talking about people that live actually in another state, in an adjacent state. What is there any? I mean, is that something that we would ask our Department of Education, the Board of Education, the state board?
Certainly, I would defer to that. Our only eligibility requirement is that they are attending in a participating public or private high school in this state.
Am I the only one surprised by that?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, all right, we had number 12, Representative Carpenter, he can.
I was thinking that my brain just, when we start talking immigration stuff, it makes my head blow up and I get all these ideas. And I started thinking, there's been a lot of conversations about not allowing DACA recipients to use HOPE, and that they shouldn't be allowed to use HOPE. But my argument would be, what's keeping an undocumented person from buying scratch-off tickets at the gas station or buying lottery tickets at a gas station? And if that truly is where the funds are coming from, then why is that an issue? Unless you can prove that those individuals did not purchase lottery tickets, then I guess I'm not sure how HOPE money is taxpayer money. And I think that conversation's a fair argument for people as we go through this process. The 3-for-1 piece, I totally agree with, because I don't think the public schools should get paid for a kid that's not in their classrooms. And there should be a reduction in FTE for kids that are dual enrolled, but good luck with that. We fought that fight a few times. All they'll do is just tell the kids not to go to dual enrollment, and it'll reduce the kids that are doing it. But I guess I don't understand the three piece. I get the college is getting paid and the high school's getting paid. Where's the third payment? If you could.
We actually pay tuition. We pay for the hourly course.
So you're paying. Let's use Dalton State because it's near and dear to my heart, and I can make sense of it. Dalton High's getting paid. Dalton State's getting the tuition rate because the parents aren't paying it. The state's paying it.
The tuition
and then
rate.
The state's backfilling it with their normal FTE hours.
Well, yeah, they call it formula funding rather than FTE. But yes.
So we're backfilling to get to that in-state rate, and we're paying the in-state rate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a little heavy. The whole program. I mean, from that standpoint, the whole program's pretty heavy, and I know it does a lot of good. I'm not saying let's get rid of dual enrollment, but I think that's a fiscally responsible conversation to have.
I agree, and I would go, and we're a little afield here, but we don't have a bill in front of us. We're just having a discussion. So we don't, I guess, have to put things in the form of a question. But I would tend to agree. I mean, if money could be saved over that, it's money that could pay for more students to avail themselves of dual enrollment. It's not necessarily so I agree. We had a couple more here. Number 24?
Yes.
Representative Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only thing that I have was regarding the question of an out-of-state student being eligible to enroll in this particular program. And it's not benefiting, you know, I maybe I didn't understand right. I thought the program was geared more to residents of Georgia, but not coming from an outside institution and becoming eligible to be a part of the dual degree program. I love the dual degree program. I think it increases enrollment, you know, at our institutions and what have you. But I'm talking about the funding of something that another state may want to duplicate within that state.
Thank you for that question, Representative. There are certain circumstances where we could, understand how this might happen. Military children,
Okay.
for one. We do have some teachers that live out of state on our border communities who receive a waiver to be able to have their child, if they are teaching in a Georgia school, come and learn in that same Georgia school. We also have some knowledge of reciprocation of border waivers around our state to allow for areas of underpopulated and underserved education to attend schools within Georgia. The requirement for this program is merely attendance at an eligible and participating dual enrollment high school, public or private, in the state of Georgia.
Thank you, Professor, and thank you for sharing that one. That teachers, I can see how that can happen. You could be living in Alabama down by Columbus, and you teach in Georgia. We're glad to have you, and you're. I think that happens oftentimes from county to county within our state. Representative Carter Barrett.
Thank you, President Riley. Is it possible to sort of clarify those numbers to get a sense, for, maybe not right now, but in the near future, just to get a sense for the scope of how many students we're talking about?
We have looked at that, and we have some idea, but I'd much rather spend a little bit more time refining it and circle back to the committee and provide that information.
If it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd follow
Yes,
up. President Riley, so I personally have witnessed dual enrollment firsthand with my daughters, and just am a huge advocate and fan of dual enrollment because I've seen firsthand. Have you got a sense, or can you elaborate a little bit on the how do students perform as they continue in higher education after they've been involved in dual enrollment versus not? In other words, my daughter is a Georgia Tech graduate. She was a dual enrollment student, and she was able to obtain an associate's degree before she graduated from high school. But I think it made a dramatic difference in how she performed in higher ed, having that exposure to higher level education while she was still safely at home as a young high school student. But I feel like it made a dramatic difference, although that's not empirical data, that's just Dad's intuition.
Thank you for your question, and Dad intuition is very accurate. Not only are we pleased to see that 70% of our dual enrollment students stay and go to our Hope eligible institutions, and that's not all our institutions, that's the ones that are participating, our public and then the privates that agree, but that the fact that they're staying in state is one, but we're also seeing measurable evidence of early completion of their post-secondary credentials because they have gotten that jump start, and they do articulate those classes into their undergraduate degrees. So there is an actual impact and some back-end cost savings that for the state of Georgia, that if we get them through and get their credentials earlier. We also see quite a few students, as you say, that come out of high school with credentials, either certificate, diplomas, and associate's degree, that go right into the workforce. So there is a measurable impact on the successful attainment of credentials here in our state.
Representative Brown.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we were talking about the students, don't we have a percentage of foster care children too that live out of state but still qualify for to go to school here with Hope?
I'm not familiar enough to be able to answer that question, Representative, today, but we'll certainly look into it. Thank
Okay.
you for bringing that to our attention.
All right, thank you.
The representative was involved in a bill a year or two ago that, am I not correct, Representative, that you had that bill of foster kids and kids that might not? Okay, I thought you worked with her on that bill as well. I know that we had that. Yeah, Representative Scott wasn't on the committee, but I think you were one of the champions of the bill from this committee. But yes, pardon me, President Riley, you don't have any further questions, so we'll follow up with you and maybe we'll invite somebody from the Department of Education. They could opine a little bit on how, because it does, you did articulate some cases that make sense now for people that don't reside in the state of Georgia to be attending public high school in Georgia with parents and various things with workers. So that does make sense. So maybe DOE can help us out with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on. President Barnes, are you ready to tell us about your proposition? House bill. You can do it from whatever you like. You want to do it from number 2 there? Yes,
Short,
ma'am.
guys.
Let me give you a better introduction, Representative Barnes. She has House Bill 88 LC 520601, and then I believe her proposition is going to look at creating a loan forgiveness program for biomedical technicians. So we're looking at this today. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for allowing me to bring this to the committee. And thank you, committee. House Bill 88 pretty much mirrors Rep. Huddleston's bill, HB 72, that we just passed unanimously out of our committee. But pretty much instead of incentivizing student loans for large animal veterinarians, I want to also include biomedical research veterinarians who are also in need in underserved areas as well. So this bill incentivizes biomedical technicians to work in underserved rural areas. It's areas under 50,000 by offering student loan forgiveness. It has a limited financial impact. What is different than HB 72 is that we'll cap the number of recipients per year. So we'll only allow 5 recipients, $30,000 max each, which would probably be the max of people who would apply for this. They will have to work in biomedical research facilities, which are all around Georgia. They must be a resident of Georgia. They have to be enrolled for 5 years within that for that coursework, and approved for rural counties under 50,000 people. The loan, again, will be a max of $30,000. And the fiscal note, the max was $150,000 because we're multiplying 30,000 times 5 recipients. That's what the bill states.
Thank you, Representative. And I apologize, we don't have the fiscal note. You did provide one for us. I don't think it made it in the packet, but I think the cost was $150,000, and there was some additional administrative costs, but they were not substantial. I think every dollar, I guess, is substantial, but they were something on the order of, I think, $6,000 and $9,000 to the various things.
Yes, $9,000.
Yeah, memory served. So do we have questions about this? I would say this, so we get to the questions. One of the things I'll ask the representative to do is to work with appropriations and get at least a placeholder in the budget. That's what we've had, in times before to, look for the funding. But in the meantime, I wanted to give the representative a hearing on the bill and let her take questions toward the perfection of the matter if it was something that appropriations smiled upon and we were interested in. In that order, Representative Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleague, I hope you'll give me grace under there are no stupid questions. Can you talk a little bit about what a biomedical technician does?
Biomedical technicians, biomedical veterinarians, we, as I am one as well, do research science to prevent sickness, to create cures, drugs, therapies, and treatments for all the diseases that we have.
May I follow up on the Roosevelt Hospital? Would it be something like with this new variant of the avian flu that came around, and there's something about the flu went to a cow who went to a human?
Mm-hmm.
That would be something that you would research as what happened in the. I don't know, is it a virus? Am I right? The avian flu is a virus. What happened in the virus that made it mutate, that made it be able to make that jump?
That's what I do every day, yes. Before I come here, I work with those type of animals.
So that's why very few people sit next to
Yeah,
her.
so COVID.
I'm joking.
So we do the COVID research. We do the avian flu research before it gets to humans, pretty much.
Yes. You had another question, but Whip Park, did you mean to?
Just turn around.
Whip Park was going to perhaps give you a friendly question as well. Representative Bernal, you had one you waved?
That was the same one.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, so you have created one from your colleague down there, Edna Jackson, number 24. Do you have one?
I just think it's an excellent project, and I'm hoping that we will pass on this. What is our procedure? Do we do a do pass?
No. Well, this is our first hearing. First
okay.
hearing on the matter, and I wanted to do that. And I'm going to suggest that, and I'll get with you afterwards. You get with Chairman Hatchett, because my information before we get ahead of things is if this goes through the process and gets perhaps to the governor's desk, notwithstanding good policy or bad policy, if there's not at least a placeholder in the budget. I know someone put a rider on one of bills that we voted out of here last year that was I sponsored, and the governor vetoed the bill because there was no funding and not even a place in the budget for funding to happen. So I know we would just be setting it up and spending time here in the House and the Senate for it to land on the governor's desk and probably not be smiled upon. So we've heard it. If we get work towards some funding, we're in a place we can work with the representative to move it forward.
Thank you for hearing it.
Thank you.
Committee.
Thank you for being here. We have another item. I really hate not to hear from the gentleman. We'll try to hear from him again. I do want to ask maybe take the copy of this bill with you as members. Chairman Hawkins, House Bill 419. He is looking to. There's some considerable language, a couple of pages in here to take in about putting an opioid antagonist, making them more available on college campuses. But given he is not with us, I'm going to wait and let him present that a bit later in the week. Keep an eye out. We have a couple of things that may be pressing that we haven't gotten back to. We're working on the dual achievement bill with the Florida Leader Hong to make some tweaks in that and provide some more definitive information about the cost. And as such, we may try to meet before session on Friday morning early to take a look at that bill. Because I think there's a sense of urgency with that, and the date is moving out quickly. So with that, is there any further business before the committee? If not, thank you very much for your time today. I know it was a little bit longer than usual, but I think it was good information there. No further business before the meeting, before the committee will stand.